Well, good morning. Here we go again with another Monday morning, stretching out into a very longish week, at least for me. I have to go to London 3 days this week, and it is not a pleasant experience anymore. I was ruminating, if that's the word, with a gentleman that I'd never met before on Friday evening on the train coming home. We were talking about the old slam door days. And yes, they were less comfortable, perhaps, in their makeup, but there was a buffet, and you got on board the buffet after a harsh, hard day. You went into the buffet and you saw lots of people you knew, and you struggled to the buffet bar, if that's what it was called, and you normally knew the steward in charge, and you would say Charlie or Fred or Belle or Mary or whatever, a gin and tonic, please, and you would grasp your gin and tonic, and suddenly the cares of the day eased off. You complained about the railways the way that we still do. You went tearing off home, enjoyed your gin and tonic, and by the time you'd got back to Lewis or to Eastbourne or to Hastings, you'd totally forgotten about the fact that the trains were so bad because you'd enjoyed the company of your fellow man and the gin and tonic. Well, you don't get that anymore. First of all, you never know who's going to be in which carriage, so there's no bonhomie anymore. There's no buffet cars on, and they took the trolleys off, so there are no gins and tonics. So you have to get one at the whistle stop on the way to the train. The whistle stop at the moment is being refurbished, so you can't get one there. Anyway, even if you did, it's like drinking alone on the trains now. And drinking alone surrounded by hundreds of people because, once again, the train was shortened. It was only 4 coaches instead of the usual 8. And, of course, what happens is then everybody is packed in like sardines. You couldn't even tell who your neighbour was sitting next to you, let alone anybody else in the carriage. So the old bonhomie goes, and what's left to talk about? The dreadful trains. And they are dreadful, but they're their own worst enemy. I've never known a company that shoots itself in the foot so much when it comes to what it wants to call. I mean, it's like most of these organisations now. They have PR that use words in the hope that they will actually soften the blow. We're still going to kick you around like cattle, but we're going to call you a customer or a client. And we're still going to have a guard, but he's going to be called an on-board representative. I mean, for God's sake, where do these people think they get off? And then the trains won't go, the track's up, they're cancelled. Get on the bus, please. We'll take you on a bus. If you think Lewis District Council makes you laugh, the train companies are nudging much, much closer. And let me get onto the banks this morning. Because actually, I don't normally talk about Brexit. And I suppose it is getting closer to some sort of crunch decisions. I'll try and make myself a little better seen. And John, sorry if the hat is hiding my eyes. Last night I watched 4 politicians on what was called the greatest Brexit show, or the last Brexit show, or the Brexit show, or some fancy title that the backroom boys had thought up for Channel 4. And the 4 of them were very typical politicians. Well, 3 of them were anyway, because the poor chap supporting the government position was really battered around. He was the one politician that looks as if he might be a sort of decent man, but he couldn't get a word in edgewise. There were the 3 others, 2 men and a woman, and they all were very typical politicians. They were all very articulate. Oh, Rees-Mogg was one of them. The lady in green, and I don't know who they are. Well, Cleverly was the chap that was being battered around. But really, you watch these things, and unless you've heard the names before, they don't really stick with you because they're such awful programs. They rabbit on, and I've often said I will never ever get into a debate with a politician because they'll win. They are very good at debating, and they proved that last night by spilling forth the most awful nonsense that you've ever heard, but making us believe that makes sense. Oh, yes, yes, indeed. And you look at them, and you almost tell from their face, we're not sure what we're talking about, but boy, do we make it sound good. But there's a word of warning from Dominic Grieve, who is hardly unbiased in this whole matter. who says, though, that the Conservative Party is probably finished. And one can see that from the ructions that why he's making that sort of prediction. And really, the big problem for me with that is it doesn't matter whether it's the Conservative Party, Labour Party, or anything else. If these parties rip themselves apart, one doesn't know what's going to take over. And that's when the Trumps and the Farage come to the front. I have no axe to grind with Nigel Farage, actually. I'm not so sure about UKIP right now. But the fact is that we don't know what will fill the gap. And they didn't know in the United States, and Donald Trump did. They didn't know in Canada. Trudeau did. Justin Trudeau. The far right in Italy have got hold of the country. Spain is in a powerless state, despite the fact that it keeps on fighting desperately for things which would not hit the national conscience very much. But Greece, of course, well, if they're being fed at the moment, that's okay. But they are another case of where they don't really know what's going to happen in the future because of the hiatus in proper leadership from the established parties. So, Dominic Grieve's warning that the Conservative Party might disappear, or might be split up to the point where it's ineffectual, should be taken not with a grain of salt. What really is the worry, though, is not so much the Conservative Party, which I don't give a fig one way or the other any more than I do the Labour Party. What worries me is the gap that is created and who goes tearing in there, because we're in a bad enough state as it is. And Jeremy Corbyn, more and more and more, his statements are, we're prepared for government. This is what we're going to negotiate. This is how we're going to behave. And if, in fact, the Conservatives do tear themselves apart, we do not need to go for an election. The Queen could constitutionally ask Mr. Corbyn to form a minority government. And there you are. I mean, you can't. SNP can't wait to form a government with somebody to have a say. DUP are out of the reckoning at the moment, I think, that because they've got themselves all squirreled away because of Brexit and so on. So who knows what's going to happen on the national scene? Why should we worry down here about the national scene? Because it affects everybody. We are in real trouble if we don't have stable government at the top, and we haven't. I mean, we haven't got stable government down here either. but for the moment, I think we can say that is the lesser of two evils. If they don't get them sorted out themselves out at the top, we are, as a country, in trouble. And that doesn't matter whether it's Brexit or not. Incidentally, a country in trouble is France. There's a warning this morning that the protests that have taken place over the last 2 or 3 weekends, and violent protests at that, have created huge economic problems for the country, and their budget is really going to be strained. So there's another country in trouble because of popular leadership at first descending into farce as they go along. Everybody can do it, can't they? Except that we don't have people who can do it anymore. They went into it as a business. And the trouble with any business is you hire somebody who's always been in the business, they haven't a clue what's happening outside. And in politics, that's poison. I think we should insist that anybody who goes into politics wants to stand for as an MP, and for that matter in the civil service, they should be able to prove that they've done 4 years at some other job so that they've got a perspective. That's what makes good journalists, and I wasn't a bad journalist in my day, and I did a lot of things. Worked slinging dirt on the Trans-Canada Highway as a prison guard for a summer. I was delivered milk in northern British Columbia and dug trenches for sewer pipe in Alberta over a 4-year period. So I didn't do too badly in finding out how the other half lived. Excuse me for my voice. Had a bit of a bad time with my Parkinson's over the weekend. It does happen occasionally, and I had some news from another friend that there's a possibility of cancer looming. The one thing that we have in common with the people that I know is that we try to laugh it in the face and just get on with it and enjoy our lives and not allow illness to overcome. Now, not everybody can do that, and I'm not suggesting that it's a universal panacea. But, if you are taken ill, if you do have illness, try hard to put a positive spin on it and try hard to laugh it in the face, because despite everything, it keeps you going. And it makes you feel much better. For that matter, if you want to be a curmudgeon like me, it makes you a better curmudgeon, because you have no fear, no worry about calling it as you see it. And there's nothing wrong with that either, with all the bafflegab that we get out of government. I haven't yet met a politician. It is north, south, east, west, around the globe, upside down, inside out, and no matter which party or political persuasion, who doesn't do anything but indulge in bafflegab. So let's have a few more that will call it from the hip. It's the way that we're actually going to go forward, not with the bunch we've got at the moment and their two-way speak. Anyway, let's... Lewis District Council are talking about putting up the council tax by 1.99%, let's say 2% for ease, almost 2%, because they say that they want to maintain the excellent frontline services. I don't know what it is about this council. They can't say anything that doesn't give me fits of giggles. What standard of frontline services? If they're there, we can't use them because we can't get through on the phone. And half the time, we can't be compensated for what we should be compensated for because the computers are 7 or 8 weeks behind. And they haven't got people to use them anyway. And, my little whistleblower told me on the weekend, but apparently they're all going to be trained to do 10,000 different jobs. So that's great. You can use me as a bus driver, a pilot, a broadcaster, and a road sweeper, and then say to me, do all of those well. I wouldn't get on my plane if I was you. I must confess, it's whatever happened to management schools and so on. So that's what they're turning out. There's a famous line in the Space Cowboys where one of the youngsters is mortified that one of the older space, what do you call the people that go about spacecraft, is they're trying to fix something, and he criticizes it, and the chap says, well, what do you know about it? He said, I think you should know. I've got 3 degrees from MIT. And the response is, I'd ask for your money back. Well, I think there are an awful lot of people floating around in various positions, particularly in government, who should ask for their money back, because they certainly didn't get the sort of training and advice they should for the job from the universities. That's for damn sure. Oh, I am having a go this morning. It's only Monday. Eco-friendly, Hastings is going to put up an eco-friendly visitor centre made of straw for £600,000, and at least there is one councillor who stood up and said, we can't afford £600,000. What are you talking about? There, at least, I bet you he actually was a bus driver or something before he became a councillor, because he's got more sense than the rest of them put together. Let's put up an eco-friendly visitor centre made of straw. It was £600,000, and we've sacked one lot because they couldn't design it properly. There we go. I mean, it really is. It's make a wonderful television series. Government. I mean, it's yes, minister, except that what do we call them? Yes, councillor. Although they do, it's something else that makes me laugh. I didn't have time this morning because I was actually going to look up the word cabinet. Because everybody has a cabinet. In my day, they had a committee and be done with it. Now, it's a cabinet. It's like the chair. I was talking to somebody who's terribly politically correct, and I said something about it, chairman, and they corrected me. And they said, you speak to a chair. So I pulled the chair out, and I started talking to this chair, and I said, it doesn't actually talk back to me. I mean, talk about torturing the English language. Can't say chairs and cabinets and so on. Where do these people come from? They're children. I mean, oh, God. And they keep me in good health by making me laugh. Let's see. There's a review of the non-executive people on the East Sussex National Trust Board because one of their auditors has said there is not enough expertise amongst the board to examine what the experts are doing, and particularly in the financial area, and that's why they're always running into trouble. There's nobody to actually act as a check and balance amongst the board. I suppose you call them directors of an NHS board. We need more people with that sort of expertise. Do forgive me for my croaky throat. It is a part of the little disease that I have, that it strikes from time to time. It doesn't shut me up, it just makes me sound croaky. Grommet. I do apologise. But there we are. It's going to stay with me through to the end this morning, I think. But anyway, a change in the board at East Sussex NHS Trust, if the auditors have their way. And I want to say that's one of the most sensible things that I've heard so far. Just one last piece. My good friend John Henty was on Facebook demonstrating a lot of the children's books that he's got from years gone by, from the 1940s, 1950s, 1960s. And he said, what was wrong with these? And of course, the answer was that they were just a great read. And books from the past, really a worthwhile getting. It's a wonderful book in bookshop in Lewes that has a lot of them from time to time. It's the 15th century bookshop just at the bottleneck, so go and have a poke around in there. They have some great stuff. I once got a Boy's Own Annual from there to show how our attitudes and our background has changed. Inside the book, it says, dedicated to the boys of the Empire, on which the sun never sets. He's stirring stuff, but at least we were kicking others instead of them kicking us. So, nothing wrong with the sentiment for the time. For the time. We won't get into a big argument about what we were and let's start suing somebody in about 1812 because of what they did. I can't help but laugh at some of the damn silly things that we're doing as a society today. But we're getting our just rewards. We've got no government. We've got no rules, no law of, or order. The country's gone to... Never mind. I don't want to swear. So I think I'd better leave it there. But John Henty has got these whole books. I just remembered that I can remember when the very first Eagle comic came out. Dan Dare and the Mekon, or the Mekon, however you wanted to pronounce them. And they ran out. On their very first issue, they ran out. You couldn't get one for love nor money. And that lasted for 3 or 4 weeks before they realised that they were onto a real winner and started to print far more papers than they had. But in post-war Britain, that wasn't always terribly easy. Anyway, if you can get an old copy of the Eagle, particularly the first one, A, I think you've got a money spinner, but B, they were damn good yarns. They were damn good stories, and that's what it's all about. Toodle pip.